Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's me, Danyell Carmelita, your favorite tarot reader and astrologer. Let's talk about everything Gemini. Welcome. Welcome if you are new, or welcome back if you are coming back and you are subscribed. Hit that bell. Please, if you're subscribed, take it another step further. So please hit the bell if you really like my content or if you love this video, because then I'll let you know when you can get the next video. I have a video up on Jupiter and Taurus that just happened May 16th. That energy is going to follow us for a year, so please check out that video. I also have another video on the current energy all the way until May, so please go ahead and check out that video. All the transits, I go into detail. I do horoscopes and tarot. Please check out my podcast. It is called Astro Tarot Insights. So I go into current events and I tie in astrology and tarot with that. Sign up for my newsletter. In my newsletter, I give out weekly horoscopes in very short, simple terms. Also, I give out some other divination tools, some rituals, just some great stuff. Okay. Also, that is the way that I can stay in touch with you. I'm not in charge. I don't own YouTube. I don't own TikTok. I don't own Instagram. So this is the way I can stay with you. If TikTok decides to get canceled or Instagram decides to boot me out, I can maintain the people who want to stay in some type of relationship with me. Emails is the key. So please sign up for my newsletter, even if you're not interested in getting a weekly vibe in the sky kind of energy. Oh, also, if you want to be a tarot reader, I have a free PDF for you, and I also have a free reading for you. So all that is available on my website. Click the link, and let's get on and talk about everything Gemini. Gemini is from May 21st to June 20th, and it is the third zodiac sign if we're going accordance to order, okay? And it's also representing a third house. The key phrase for Gemini is I think, I communicate. And we'll get into that much more. Also, this video, I really wanted to go in and do as much Gemini information as possible. I'm doing this for every season, so you can learn everything about astrology. This is how you start. If you're not even trying to be an astrologer, if you're just trying to find out about a Gemini, or you're just trying to find out how to understand people, this is where you get it, okay? Right here, okay? The duality, which is there is masculine and feminine and positive and negative. This is very interesting because it's ruled by Mercury, but we're going to say it's on the masculine side and it's positive, okay? So that's what we'll get. We'll get into the gender part later. All the other signs, very obvious, but Gemini, we're going to say is masculine. The element is air, okay? And all the air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, okay? Those are all the air signs, and they all have the same common thing. They're all bright and very communicative and very rational and social, okay? They're all associated with intellect, thought, communication, and being very unpredictable because you're dealing with the air. Networking, social connections, thinking, talking, and sharing of ideas. Gemini is the first of the rational air sign, okay? It's the first of the air signs when we're going in order. So it brings some extraness to it. The quality is that it's a mutable sign. It is in springtime. It's right in the middle of spring. Anytime you're dealing with any type of mutable signs, because the other mutable signs besides Gemini is Virgo and Pisces, Sagittarius. And they're all very adaptable and they're okay with new situations. Very lively, energetic, versatile. Versatile energy is what you get with most mutable signs. So the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. Mercury is also the ruling planet of Virgo. We'll get into more detail on Mercury, the planet, but for now, I'm just going to tell you and Mercury rules communication and travel. It's the ancient messenger of gods. It influences, emphasis, quick cleverness, and a nervous temperament. Okay. Now, the symbol of Gemini, the twins, or the twins. The stars were named after twin brothers, Castor and Pollux. One mortal and one was immortal. When the mortal brother Castor was killed in battle, Pollux appealed to the gods to be able to share his mortality. Brothers alternated between heaven and earth and remained forever young. Remember I said that. Associated with duality signifies unity and completion, both separated and connected. Gemini's ability to see as many perspectives when you have the twins, that is almost always of two or more minds is what you have with this twins. And the constellation Gemini is illuminated by two bright stars, hence the two twins, Castor and Pollux. They both have different fathers, which is very interesting. Indicates companionship and the joining of two personalities and traits, humanism, versatility, and communications. Twins of cores are known for psychic connections, developing their own languages and codes that acknowledge the world while keeping them separate from it. The twins, the whole theme of the twins with the Gemini gets very, I could have did a whole video on that, but we'll keep it going. Now, the glyph for Gemini, which is the two figures, which you can say of the twins. There also could be the human arms or lungs, two upright lines bounded by the bottom lines represent wisdom and learning and the powers of the mind synthesizing information. The polarity, which means the opposite of Gemini, is Sagittarius. Gemini is the sign of thought and communication on a personal level. Gemini strives for self-expression and tries to impose their points of views on others. Sagittarius, in which Gemini's opposite sign, is a sign of governing, the wider philosophy and mental exploration. Sagittarian people tend to shrink from close personal involvement, and unlike Gemini's, shared by what they think. They both are into thinking, but it comes out in a different way. Sagittarius represents truth and justice and takes the broader perspective. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. The protective planet Sagittarius can teach the sign Gemini to rise above petty squabbles and to be inclusive rather than divisive. Okay, it can help you reorientate your moral compass so you use your words and actions for noble purposes rather than as a weapon to attack and deceive. Okay, so this is what you Gemini energy can learn from Sagittarius. Now, the body part ruled by Gemini are the hands, arms, shoulders, nervous system, and lungs. Geminis are susceptible to strains and accidents involving the arms and hands, and are very prone to bronchitis and respiratory ailments. The lucky day for Gemini is Wednesday. Lucky numbers are 5 and 9. The birthstone is a blue lace agate. It helps with communication of ideas, study, nervous tension, encourage self-expression, and also blue sapphire is believed to eliminate depression and boost feelings of positivity. The special color for Gemini is yellow, the color of nobility. Cities of Gemini, and I know you're probably like, why do I need to know the cities of Gemini? Whenever there is a planet in the sign of Gemini, it's going to bring light or really shine bright onto these cities. For example, we have a Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus, and Taurus is one of the countries of Taurus is Russia. Okay, so that's just so you can understand a perspective. That's the current energy as I'm doing this video, so you can understand why the cities and countries are important. So the cities of Gemini are London, San Francisco, Versailles, and Melbourne. Countries are United States, Wales, Belgium, Egypt, and Armenia. So Gemini in the United States, get ready for that if you are in the USA. Flowers is lily of the valley and lavender. Trees are any nut-bearing trees. Herbs associated with Gemini is to treat the digestive conditions and coughs. So caraway, I'll put it down in case I'm saying it wrong. Marjoram, horehound, lavender, savory, asafoetida. I don't know if I'm saying it right. cumin, cinnamon, and bay leaves. Okay, spices, vanilla, ginger, coriander, cumin, and turmeric. During Gemini season, if you're doing an altar, feel free to put any of that on your altar. Feel free to use any of that. You can turn it into an essential oil in a diffuser. It's going to help you, especially when the sun is in Gemini, help you deal with some Gemini issues, okay? The metal of Gemini is Mercury. But it's really Quicksilver. But Quicksilver, I guess, is not good to touch. It's difficult to wear or carry on a person. It is unquestionably the metal associated with Gemini, and it is said to boost the health of the nervous system, but will be used, you can use Mercury with that. Animals ruled by Gemini are brightly colored birds and butterflies. Monkeys are good at persuading. Oh, parrots is also a Gemini. Why? Because they communicate. So, and very colorful at the same time. So, and we'll get into why multicolor is a thing for Gemini. Danger, Geminis, okay? People are prone to have accidents while traveling, especially in the air. Their fickle nature also tends to arouse unexpected anger and others, and the death of which Gemini often misjudge. So that's something you guys need to be aware about. Let's talk about the tarot that represents Gemini. Sorry if you can hear my bracelets. The tarot is the Lover's card. And while I have my tarot deck here, I'm like, oh, I should have pulled it up. But the Lover's card is associated with Gemini because Gemini is associated with communication. You have the curiosity, talkative, flirtatious, and playful energy, and you can say that with the lovers in a Lover's card. Also twins and souls. And remember what I said earlier about the symbol twins and how it's like there's this communication, the verbal communication, the language that twins have between each other. Card could be somewhat romantic, the Lover's card. Connotation, it is more important to note that the lovers are kindred spirits who speak the same language, like I said earlier, and exchange thoughts and ideas freely, openly. Most people put a romantic spin on the lovers, but it could also signify a sibling relationship when you have the Lover's card. In fact, most people have long-lasting relationships with their brothers and siblings more than a romantic relationship. The card also represents the twins, and the Gemini, also the sign of the twins, represent duality of separate individuals working together and making the most of two identities, two ideas, and intersection of 2 points of views. Now, the design also describes, and the lovers demonstrate the two heads are better than one, and that 2 points of views coexist harmoniously, right? And remember I said Jupiter is all about like the big world understanding something, where Gemini is more like me and you, one-on-one. We can comprehend this. In a reading, if you ever have the Lover's card, it represents harmony and relationships and values, alignment choices, self-love, harmony, balance, and misalignment values if it's in reverse. The picture of the card shows a naked woman and a naked man. I don't know if I can show that on here, standing beneath the angel, and represents both physical and emotional healing. The couples dance in a beautiful landscape reminiscent of the Garden of Eden. Behind the woman stands an apple tree with a snake winding up the trunk. The serpent on the apple tree represents temptation and sensual pleasures that may take one's focus away from the divine world. Now, the 12 flames behind the man suggest the 12 zodiac signs, a symbol of time and eternity. Aspects of male and female, light and shadow, the energy of Adam and Eve. And Adam they can say Eve is the twin of Adam because he gave up his lung, right? And which we had lungs, I think, in Gemini energy. Okay, so Gemini characteristics. We're just going to throw out a few things quickly just so you can understand Gemini energy as a whole. Gemini is known most for its love of communication. A keyword that's usually used for Gemini, that's like the top of one of the lists, is communication. Above all, rational a highly sociable sign, adaptable, skilled with words, observant, manipulative, practical jokes, flexible, jack of all trades, all forms of communication, deceitful, versatile, lively, youthful, inquisitive, eloquent, nervy, tense, superficial, learning, skills, inconsistent, cunning, many-sided, quick thought and action, clever with words, skillful at handling others, curious about everything. Geminis wants to play all the parts, the director, the actor, the stagehand. They want to do it all. Duality, wants more than one of everything. So hobbies, jobs, careers, and lovers, they want it more. They want more of them. Needs constant change. Variety is the game for Gemini. Needs to communicate, enjoys writing, chatting with strangers, surfing the web, text messages, loves the telephone, okay? Gemini energy loves to talk on the phone. Perpetual student of life, people manager, gift of persuasion, ideal conversationalist, superficial, because you get a quick grasp of everything. They really don't go really beyond the surface. Gifts of writing, speaking and self-expression, adaptable, witty, dislike routine, value freedom, love to explore, multitasker, gossip, trivia, word games, mischievous, eavesdropping, knowledge, tactics, mental flexibility, judging and deciding, negotiator, thirst for knowledge, ambition, calculator, crafty, ice cold in business. Okay, if that doesn't put Gemini in a nutshell, then you're welcome, everyone. You're welcome. Now you have Gemini in a nutshell, but we're still going in. We're still going deeper. So if you're a Gemini and all that list of things that I gave you, you're going to resonate with this mostly if you have the sun in Gemini, the moon in Gemini, or if you have something close aspected to Mercury, or Mercury in Gemini. If you were born with the number of planets in the third house, you resonate with Gemini. If you were born with Mercury in the first, fourth, seventh, or 10th house, you're going to resonate with Gemini energy too. So here's some extra things about Gemini. I have a whole list, and I'm going to try to bring it down. I just want to preference this by saying that I am a Mars in Gemini and a Venus in Gemini. Here's the Venus giving you all the look here, and tomorrow I will look like a whole different person. So that's the Venus in Gemini. Now the Mars in Gemini is, while I'm researching this, I'm listening to a podcast. Or while I'm researching this, I'm cooking dinner. Okay, so that is the Mars in Gemini. But let's continue. Also, too, Gemini also gives me like the hair is like black and white. Whenever I see people with hair color, like red, pink, trust me, I've done that. That gives me Gemini energy. Okay, and using talks a lot. Jupiter in a third house. I met someone the other day, and I'm like, you have to be a Gemini. And I'm like, what is your birthday? Give me your time of birth. You know, I looked that up real quick. Jupiter in the third house. They talked my face off, talked my ears off, but guess what? I loved it. I loved every part of it. So I am here for all the Gemini energy because I am a Venus and Mars in Gemini. Okay, here's some Gemini extras. The potential can be expressed in many ways, but especially through media. This need for communication is also strong and frequent, engaged in social media, discussions, everything social media, can quickly assimilate knowledge. The third sign in the zodiac, the last month of spring in the northern hemisphere, you are spring-like approach to life, and you're full of bounce and with color, and there's sunny disposition and personality with Geminis. Geminis is a very extroverted sign. Generally speaking, their minds work very quickly. Gemini teaches us power of words, of prompts, and teases the skills of decoding, encoding messages, understanding our world, and making ourselves understood. Our earlier social interaction teaches us how to argue and negotiate. Need to know and love to learn, and communication is very serious. However, they are not going to memorize a dictionary. Like I said, it's all like jack of all trades and not getting too deep into something. Don't always have the time to smell the roses and are always moving fast too. Very busy with a long list of things to do and people to talk to. Gemini rules all things multicolored. Okay, so when you see multicolored things, Gemini. Also makes me think of like the rainbow. Gemini also makes me think of like the gay, lesbian flag. I don't know. I'm not, that's not part of my world. LBGTQ flag. That's Gemini. Okay. Gemini has a gift of gab. Gemini is not typically attached to what the answer is or whether it is proven right. It tends to be very open-minded energy. A lot of people think Gemini are two-faced, but they're not two-faced. They're really just into like, they can believe one thing, strongly believe it, and then walk out the door and someone can convince them something else. And they're like, you know what? That's actually a great idea. So then they'll twist that and say, you know what? Now I don't believe what I just believed. I believe in this now. So that is when you have, when people say that they're two-faced, that's the two-face of Gemini. A perspective is everything, and nobody knows that better than a Gemini. Geminis are great debaters. Their mind is very curious, able to leap from topic to topic. Gemini represents versatility, not only in the mind, but the body as well. Remember, I talked about the fact that I dress differently. Also, they have quick reflexes and good dexterity. Simply and consistently being on the go also makes a Gemini very flexible. Silence and quiet aren't a natural habitat for Gemini. Instead, they prefer noises on the radio and in the background. Just me with my Mars and Gemini. When I take a nap, something has to be on. It's very bizarre. Of activity immersed in the hustle and bustle of life. They talk with their hands. And I talk with my hands all the time, especially probably if they're a Mercury in Gemini, talking with the hands. You may love being in taxis and trains and buses if you're a Gemini, because you are able to talk to someone and travel at the same time. Your physical and mental mind is moving fast, and you have a quest for divine immortality. Geminis are like, how can you stay young? Because they are very youthful energy, young, spirited, and playful attitude, live wire framed of mind. Things that are very negative of energy of Geminis, and everything has a yin and a yang. Everything has a positive and negative, like there is a day and a night. It doesn't mean it's bad. I know I'm saying dislikes are negative, but it's part of everyone. Everyone has this duality, okay? Speaking of Gemini, everyone has this energy, and it's a matter of balancing it. But sometimes that negative energy is used to fire and to add things. Anyway, that's a whole nother video. But some negative things of Gemini is, instead of looking at a person's deeper qualities, they tend to stand by their reaction. When crossed, they can be sarcastic, and that comes off very arrogant. Geminis tend to know a lot about many subjects and sometimes fail to acquire true deep knowledge of one topic. Tendency towards to being inconsistent. Geminis need for variety, so this inconsistency can cause things to be unfinished. Geminis can often find it hard to make eye contact when talking to someone. They kind of look over their shoulder. It's very like trippy, but just pay attention to that. Boredom with Gemini leads to distraction, excessive talking, oversharing. Also tend to lie because they're stretching the truth, and they're storytellers, so they tend to tell a story, and they exaggerate the truth. They come off being fake. You forget what you say and change your version of things constantly. In the midst of confusion, you create your own truth when you have Gemini and perceive the world in your own way. You can be controversial because of that two-faced energy, and because you love to be provocative, and it comes off deceitful, brooding. Unhappiness and thoughts and irrationality is what you get whenever the Gemini is in reverse or negative. You often keep your dark twin hidden away, not wanting to show the side of the personality to anyone. And sometimes it's really how you're feeling, but you just put a smile on your face. As you have infinite possibilities, you talk yourself in and out of different situations. Geminis are so indecisive. Should I do it? Should I not do it? Should I do it? Should I not do it? Maybe I should do it. No, I'm not going to do it. It's just like, oh my gosh. And then you have that nervous tension. So it really comes off crazy. But it's okay, Gemini. I'm telling you, you're like, oh my gosh, she is reading me, because Mars in Gemini, Venus in Gemini. So imagine how many friends I have in Gemini. Trust me, it's a lot. I was like, when I first learned astrology and I realized that, I was like, all of my girlfriends that I am close to are Geminis, okay? Twin brother. We're Cancer sun, but that Mars in Gemini, it's like, he drives me insane. Anyway, but that's my mirror. This is me. You prefer to tell a white lie than deal with the uncomfortable situation as you try to talk your way out of any predicament. Let's talk about health with Geminis. Geminis are very young and youthful looking. So they don't really have that much issues with their health. But if they do have health concerns, it's more psychological and it comes out physical, because they have that nervous energy. Because they get bored of the same routine, they don't like to really exercise. So exercising is like, oh, this is boring, but switch up the exercise. There's so many different exercises you can do. Gemini should refrain from smoking because we have the lung issue here. So don't smoke. Okay, no one should be smoking, but especially Gemini energy. And then they thrive best on a light diet because they're always on the go. So there is 3 decadents in each zodiac sign, and it's basically like the different weeks. They're breaking down in different days. So the first decan of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, are ruled by Jupiter. Now, the reason why I have 2 different ones, because it depends on which astrology you study. But because I have Mars in Gemini, I'm giving you all the options. Welcome to the world of Gemini, okay? May 22nd to June 1st, that is ruled by Mercury. But if you believe it's May 21st to May 31st, then it's ruled by Jupiter. I'm going to give them both to you, okay? Extremely curious if you're decan number 1, always taking in information, likely to be scattered, easily to be distracted. Mine is very quick, and this is if you have a 0 to 9 degrees in Gemini. Now, this is also represented when we have tarot, the 8 of swords. And the 8 of swords, it has like a person surrounded by a bunch of swords and they're blindfolded. Illustrates the problem. The woman in the card is paralyzed by possibilities. She's surrounded by multiple options, but can't see the trees in the forest. She separates her companion on the Lover's card, and she doesn't have her Gemini soulmate. A long for her to have a companion. Now, if you have Jupiter, which Jupiter is in detriment of Gemini, because it's 180 degrees from its natural home, she is forced to work with the energy, and that is radically different from what she's used to. In the Golden Dawn, which is the people who did the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and created the art and the meanings of the deck, they called Jupiter and Gemini the Lord of the shortened force, because it illustrates the crippling effect of too much is a good thing, okay? So if you get this card in a reading, it represents entrapment. It could also mean like initiation and recognition of an awakening that's going to occur when you are forced to assess your situation and focus on your goals in life, okay? Always think too of like, I'm the victim when I pull that card. So, so that is the first decan. Now we talk about the second one. And the second one is ruled by Venus, which is Libra, or Mars, which is Aries, but Mars, okay? June 2nd to June 11th, or June 1st to June 10th. Very social, loves to conversate with others, love to know all about what makes you tick. Loves to study art, wonders of nature. You have the art because of the Venus. Has a tendency to see themselves through the eyes of others. That's with the Libra. Difficulty making decisions without others' input. Great mediators. If you have 10 to 19 degrees of Gemini. And the Mars, if you're doing with Mars, it's a planet of aggression and energy, and doesn't tone down, right? It's more like nature. When he travels to this in the sign, he finds a whole arsenal of mental weapons at his disposal. Mars plays games, mind games, when you have this decadent fully armed with verbal and intellectual and ammunition. He plants seeds of doubt and trusting the mind and unleashes attacks in the form of nightmares and unconscious fears. And now we have the tarot card, which is the Nine of Swords. And a Mars and this is, there's a woman and she's sitting in a bed, and her mind is not clear and she can't sleep because her mind is racing about fear and anxiety. There's a fine line between love and hate, and in this card it's linked to the Gemini lovers. It reminds us of the how the lover could easily turn into an opponent, right? And they know your weaknesses and they're willing to be a trickster or exploit them. The Nine of Swords is connection to the Magician card because the Magician represents Mercury. And on the shadow side of this, just that the Magician used its bad magic onto the person in the card in this decadent. And so then now the person can't trust anything, and that's when you have this card. Now the Golden Dawn, which I explained earlier, who designed the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, Mars and Gemini, they said is the Lord of despair and cruelty because it illustrates the brutal effect of the mental assault under the cover of darkness. In this tarot reading, the Nine of Swords often represents restless nights and anxious dreams and insomnia and panic attacks. Now we have the last decadent of Gemini, and it is ruled by Uranus, or if you believe in other astrology, a Sun in Gemini, June 12th to June 21st, or June 11th to June 20th. If you have your decadent in 20 to 29 degrees, then here we are talking about you. And you are about the big picture thinker, can come up with innovative concepts, emotionally detached, see the connection to help humanity as a whole, very friendly, loves to talk big scale versus small talk and small ideas. The sun usually seems very happy and beaming, always radiating life. Too much sun, however, can burn. Okay, Gemini is very talkative with this decadent. Unfortunately, talk leads to backstabbing and gossip and slander, ambitious, personal attacks. Even when Gemini intellectual energy is self-contained, it can pierce our confidence with pains of self-doubt. Sometimes the truth hurts kind of energy is when you get in this decadent, especially when the sun reveals politics of personal distraction. So what card represents this? This is a 10 of Swords. The 9 of Swords showed the woman from the lovers, and the 10 of Swords shows the man from the lovers. So we had the woman, and now we're dealing with the man. Both have been wounded by the trickster aspect of the ruler planet, and the young man's wounds are here. The wounds aren't the kind that you heal well from. In the Golden Dawn, designers of the card, they call it the Sun in Gemini, the Lord of Rohan, because it reveals the unknown, avoidable truth of an unattainable situation. It also represents the consciousness. So it's like anything that you had anything that you were dealing with unconsciously is now brought to the conscious, and you can't hide anymore. The truth is here, it's here, and it's stabbing you in the back, and it's causing you pain. Sun in Gemini delivers a final bringing blow, and the suffering can end because it also is a 10, and it means the end of a journey. The soul is liberated by a complete and total enlightenment. In one of the tarot cards decks I own, the 10 of Swords is on the heel, and it's looking out into the sun. The mind is free to roam and burden by physical form and unhindered by gravity. If you get a tarot card, the 10 of Swords, in a reading, it often represents overkill, death, backstabbing, and rebirth of a cycle, and endings and beginnings. Okay, so let's talk about Mercury, the planet. This is a lot of information, so I hope you guys are getting it all in. So Mercury, the planet, is, I said, the ruler of Gemini, and it's about your mind, communication, trade, commerce, travel, intelligence, mental, and physical. The ruler of Gemini and Virgo. Okay, so not just one sign, too. The detriment of Mercury is Sagittarius and Pisces. When a celestial body is in detriment, it is said to not be comfortable in this sign. So it tends to operate in the least of its strength. Okay, exalted is Virgo, and exaltation is a place of awareness for the planet. So It likes it here, and it's well placed. Whereas if it's in the fall, there's weakness concerning the functioning of the planet, and the fall of Mercury is Pisces. So the tarot card for Mercury is the Magician, which I mentioned earlier, and it comes to life in the form of magician because it's the master of space and time and cosmic energy. Our perception of the world changes the world, and that the mind truly is more powerful than matter. The magician himself, as a channel for transformation and change, he conducts karmic energy to his body, and he uses the power to manifest, love the manifest, into his own reality. As above, so below. The magician shows the outer world of cause and effect, and the inner world of personal experiences often aren't so far apart. And like magician, Mercury corresponds with the element of air. In this picture, the magician is standing with one arm up, stretching upwards toward the universe. And my husband just told me the other day that, like, it's also the Illuminati symbol. That was just interesting. Just have to throw that in there. Tell me if you know anything about that. And the other one is pointing down to the earth, and he is using his relationship to create and manifest his goals into the physical realm. His cloak is red, and it's representing worldly experiences and knowledge. Now, the tarot in a reading, when you get the magician, it's all about manifestation, resourcefulness, power, inspired action, manipulation, poor planning, untapped talent. Mercury was also the Roman god of magic. So that's why you have Mercury and magician. And then the Quicksilver was associated with transformation in the fifth element of ether. Mercury is the second smallest planet in the solar system. Pluto is the smallest, and Mercury is the closest to the sun. Because Mercury travels so close to the sun, it is never far from the sun in your birth chart. So either your sun sign or in the sign immediately following your sun. So you're only one sign away from your sun sign when you have a Mercury sign. Mercury moves very closely. Mercury moves very quickly, completing a revolution around the sun every 88 days. Mercury is between us and the sun, and therefore invisible. You can't really see it. The planet is never visible long after a sunset, nor long after a sunset. Our observations always been made in daylight when it's difficult to see. Mercury appears as an evening star in March and April, and as a morning star in September and October. The ancient Greeks thought it was two stars in the morning. And, remember the two twins. Apollo and the evening star was called Mercury. In Egypt, also regarding to the two stars Set and Horus, which were also known as the stars of thought. The planet stimulated the mind, but it can make a subject argumentative and critical. Nervous, intense, all possibility traits of Virgo, with which the planet is associated with. Now let's talk about Mercury as a god, okay? The god of oratory and free speech, positive and masculine. Mercury, let me not say masculine. Mercury is a direct descendant of Hermes, the messenger of Zeus, and the god of travelers, the son of Maya, I don't know if I'm saying the name right, and Jupiter, also known as Zeus. Hermes, Mercury, is considered a very chatty god of speech who excels at being witty and a sharp tongue. He's also depicted as a trickster who outwits monsters and humans and demigods and even the other gods with his cunning and silver tongue. Mercury invented the lyre. I don't know if I'm saying it right. It's a musical instrument. And he was also an amazing athlete. He has wings on his sandal and his helmet, and he's usually stripped for sports. He carries a caduceus. I don't know if I'm saying that right, okay? A symbol of peace made of olive branches and snakes. Olive branch. I'm giving you an olive branch. Very Mercury energy. Mercury brings polarities together in a grand synthesis, hence why they have the olive branch. Was comfortable with mortals and immortals. Mercury was a trickster and a thief, and so he was put to work as a messenger of gods to keep him out of trouble. Mercury is mercurial. The planet is characterized by rapid changes, which can be very unpredictable, hence why it's always in retrograde, right? mediator between heaven and earth, God of paths and journeys, God of speech, God of for souls into the underworld, messenger of dreams. Mercury is also associated with arithmetic. Mercury is the planet of mental activity, communication, intellectual energy. It rolls over our intelligence, perceptions, and reasons. Memory, speaking, are all under this dominant control of Mercury. It also controls the functions of our, like I said, its fingers too. Mercury also rules voice. People with a strong Mercury influence are very successful in public speaking, singing, and acting. Mercury protects travelers and benefits education and research. Mercury's rulership ranges from major areas of the nervous system and the ability to communicate to such minor things as handwriting, pens, pencils, anything dealing with communication, okay? Computers, email, it's all Mercury. The negative side of Mercury influences produces a tendency to be critical, sarcastic, argumentative, sly, lying, deceit. And there's also certain type of crime with Mercury, which is like fraud or forgery, swindling. Very intellectual. Remember that. Very clear communication with Mercury. Mercury even passes the Earth and sometimes causes the Mercury retrograde, which can last up to 9 weeks and can happen 3 to 4 times a year. And that's why we have disruptions with our communication. Some key words with Mercury is teachers, school, children, universities, students, poets, salespeople, analysts, doctors, critics, scientists, sciences, researchers, journalists, or orators, translators, attorneys, forgers, counterfeiters, cheaters, thieves, liars, and swindlers. Now we have the last thing that's dealing with Mercury, which is the third house, which is also dealing with Gemini. And the third house of Gemini and Mercury, the key words in the third house is siblings, communication, domain of language, in the mind, neighborhood, transportation, environment, early education, daily rituals, and extended family. The third house is where you learn to talk and walk. Okay. It also coordinates with early childhood. It represents the stage of life when we begin to communicate verbally and realize both our connection to our separate self and each other. So you really start to learn that in the third house, and relationship to close relatives, because, you know, in the first house, it's you. The second house is like, oh, okay, where do I live? What is my body like? And how I am. And the third house is like, oh, now I can talk. And now I have relatives. And now it's about my community and my neighborhood. The child also enters a world of symbols, ideas, and concepts. And that all happens with memory, too. Traditionally, astrologers have associated the third house with the ninth house. Signs in the third house reveal our relationship and attitude towards knowledge and self. For instance, a person with a Mars in the third house could believe knowledge is power. A person with the moon in the third house may seek knowledge for security, because the moon represents security. This house is concerned with relatives, not your parents, siblings, uncles, aunts, and cousins. If you have transits in the third house, then you're going to have a mental adjustment, finding one true's voice. Subjects, also there is school life with the third house. Dealing with some school experiences is in the third house, and obtaining information, communication, media, anything dealing with the media, day-to-day travel, any powers of communication in the third house. If you're changing a car, that's because you have some type of transit happening in your third house. Mental attitude is also under the rulership of this house, and it can be used to support the way in which the subjects find or of self-expression. Personal environment is in the third house. Speech, and speech is, I have a speech impediment, so some bad aspects with me with the third house. A young person has been having a bad time in school and they want to change schools. Third house. For anyone in an impasse situation, a positive third house influence will put them in a better position to move forward to make mental adjustments. Problems with relatives. Third house. This is not the house that relates to parents or kids. Like I said earlier, I said parents, but not kids. Placement in third house often correlates with professions. Like I said earlier, teaching, journalists, printing, literature, lecture, not publishing. That's the ninth house. But you see how Gemini and Sagittarius, because the ninth house is Sagittarius and Jupiter, but they're complete opposite. But publishing out in the world, yes, but writing, that's different because you're just writing to yourself. That is very Gemini, third house, Mercury. Now, affirmation for all of my Gemini strong energy people is I don't have nor do I need all the answers to get where I'm going. I trust that the information I need will reach me when I need it. Okay, then some famous Gemini people are George Bush, Johnny Depp, Clint Eastwood, Allen Iverson, Prince, Kanye West, Venus Williams, Marilyn Monroe, Lenny Kravitz, and Lauryn Hill. Also Kendrick Lamar. Because I have a Venus and Mars and Venus and Mars in Gemini, I love artists who are Geminis. Rap artists, if you're a Gemini, you got me. You got me through the words, especially through the words. On Gemini quotes, be careful of the words you say. Keep them short and sweet. You never know from day to day which ones you'll have to eat. And that is everything Gemini. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope it wasn't too much information. Let me also, because I love to do tarot, pull some cards on Gemini for the collective. So whenever there's Gemini season, this is what God wants you to know. First, we have the Swords, which is very Gemini. Rest your tongue, rest your mentality. Okay, take time to rest. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. The Lovers card, which I discuss everything lovers. So be aligned with people, share your knowledge, be very communicative with people and one-on-one situations. Use your intuition and share your values with loved ones who are very close. Next, we have the Six of Pentacles. This is all about being charitable during Gemini. So share your knowledge with others, okay, during the Gemini season. And then lastly, we have Justice. This is also very duality, which is all about fair and having justice and being fair, okay? Also the duality of Gemini, which is always look at the pros and cons of everything during Gemini season. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions. And that is it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.